Welcome to episode 10 of our Think Sheet, the real world documentary series. What if meetings and workflows? My name is Bill Stahl. I am the CEO, co-founder, and chief qualitative scientist of ThinkSheet Inc. Chris, this is the first episode in which we transition from training you as a ThinkSheet user and strategic partner, how the scoring process works, to actual use. A reference for our audiences to the smartphone analogy playlist that introduces the ThinkSheet value proposition in the context of the Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan case studies and the core differentiators of ThinkSheet models, i.e., users can communicate the all-important reasons why for their answers as a dynamic causal chain symbolized by a butterfly effect icon. You are the lead user in our 2020-22 business pivot from an application-specific to enterprise software company driven by our enterprise tech advisors. Addition of What If plus Answer video services to our services business, and the integration of professional intelligence and artificial intelligence, abbreviated PI plus AI. Our focus on the C-suite as users resulted in the Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan case studies. The pandemic created a quantum leap in the use of video, particularly for virtual meetings and podcasts, and the huge new market for our What If plus Answer video services, resulting in 100+ video library growing by the week. And finally, professional plus artificial intelligence integration, resulting in the futuristic development plan to synthesize the two using ThinkSheet's common measurement system. Your sectors, industries, and stocks.
Bill, I see you added NextEra into energy. NextEra is one of the largest market caps in renewables and a perfect contrast to Exxon and Aramco. Also, ASML and semiconductors with their unique $200 million EUV lithography systems, both great ads.
Chris, one objective of this video is to show you and our audiences the gold mine of ThinkSheet assets and how we leverage them to help you first develop your pilot with the least amount of time invested in your part, and second, to maximize the value of ThinkSheet over time. A 200+ model library that enables you to compare the historical markets, models, and patterns most similar to the current ones. You can use them for base case, best case, and worst case scenarios because the models were created in all types of market environments. Wall Street strategists have encyclopedic memories of the various market environments and constantly reference them in meetings, television interviews, podcasts, and conferences. However, their models are numerical and correlated. ThinkSheet, by contrast, models causation and explains the whys for the answers on one-pages for efficient, high-speed what-if analysis. Conventional historical models do not include qualitative drivers like COVID, Xi Jinping, Ukraine, and deglobalization.
That's going to be very helpful being able to reference those historical models because we can overlay them with the current models and integrate similar components into the current model.
Agree. These are the quant metrics for the macro analysis for 30+ scenarios used by a buy-side analyst that enable him to quickly adjust his model forecast for the dramatic market changes from the dot-com bust and 9/11. This is his complete framework. He already had the cash flow projections for 77 stocks, so ThinkSheet's value add was the qualitative metrics in the blue box. Your sub-risk, US, China, supply chains, and technology are dynamic. You can change them at the click of a button. We pre-populated them using our library of qualitative risk metrics tested by premier users and co-developers. The users, years, and market environments are at the bottom. C-suite on the left to Morgan Stanley Publishing to diversified healthcare and TMT. The origin of ThinkSheet was my privatization project at Left that I managed for the U.S. Military Academy at West Point during the Persian Gulf War era. Financial services, real estate, global macro, and electric utilities with modules to copy and paste into new models. We know which ones are relevant to current issues when we show them to you for optional use. Here's your criteria for your risk. Rigorously structuring your model framework Defining your metrics and setting your criteria is critical for your best performance. Let's start with the U.S.-China risk. Earlier this week, Russian military facilities deep inside the country were hit with drone attacks, presumably by Ukraine, a first in the war. The Council on Foreign Relations wrote, "Is industrial policy back due to COVID and China competition?" Yes, it is. And the unintended consequence is a rift with Europe. However, we believe the US and Europeans will work it out because we're friendly rivals, as opposed to China, which requires far more consequential wargaming. Next to your criteria. What do you think about tweaking the criteria to add industrial policy? The Netherlands illustrated its importance by its huge decision yesterday to support the US in curbing exports to China, like the $200 million ASML machines.
So, based on that newest piece of information, I would take the US and China risk away from the US because ASML curbs are very positive for the US and negative for China. And it's shocking the speed with which Apple is trying to move out of China, given the hit to the bottom line. Tracking Apple's success or failure will be critical to buying and selling Apple. I think Apple's the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of companies trying to move out of China. That's why you see the dramatic change in tone to start easing the zero COVID policies.
Stephen Engel, Bloomberg Asia, was incredulous last night, read the speed of change in China's COVID policy, and more importantly, the narrative. He's been covering China for decades and said he has never seen such a pivot in such a short period of time. Only Xi Jinping could make such a radical decision and have it executed with such priority and speed. A perfect example of the butterfly effect and Think Sheet's ability to model it. The ongoing European energy problem and the competitive disadvantage relative to the US and China. Headline yesterday, Elon Musk and Tesla are having major problems at the German Gigafactory, which is in total chaos because Tesla and Musk are perceived as unattractive employers relative to Germany's heavily unionized automotive sector. Here's the criteria and judgments for the supply chain and tech risk. Energy, batteries, chips, and COVID are the drivers. From a wargaming perspective, the advanced chips are needed for AI, which seems to be driving all advanced technologies in the world today, and the batteries for electric vehicles.
There's a huge overlap between electric vehicles and AI because of self-driving promises automakers are making to governments and customers, saying by 2025 and 2030, most of their fleets are going to be all electric and some with self-driving. The availability of these chips is one of the biggest base case growth drivers for the US economy. Automotive is a really big industry.
Okay, so what do you want to do about the judgments?
I think we should take supply chain risk out of US since they're moving so much out of China and moving to friendlier countries.
Catalysts and X factors. The US and China are aggressively competing for geopolitical and geoeconomic alliances. India is a critical swing country because of its population, English language, global tech companies, and geographical location, and Modi, a very powerful leader. This picture tells 1,000 words in terms of Apple's move from China to India. In addition to 200 to 300,000 workers in iPhone City in Shenzhen, China also has the suppliers to Foxconn, and, to quote Dan Ives of Wedbush, the suppliers to the suppliers, and the suppliers and suppliers to the suppliers. Apple has been trying to move its supply chains to India for 7 years with minimal success. Can you imagine this in the US? I'm sending this video to the rest of our team for comments, and we'll send you a summary of the issues for our What If model update at a regular meeting on Monday morning.
Sounds good.